Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're going to talk about the importance of mindset, right? So before we get started, let's go ahead and read this quote. If I lose $1 billion, I will have it back in less than 5 years, by Henry Ford. Now, think about this. What is the tone of that quote? What do you feel? Do you feel like this is the voice of a peasant or a king, right? To me, it sounds like a king. Now, think about this. Out of all the people that you know, who do you know who actually thinks like this? Probably a very small number of people, right? Basically, hey, if I lost it all, I'll be fine. Because that's a mindset of abundance, not a scarcity. And our mindset and how we present ourselves is very crucial in determining whether we are and stay on the struggle bus or not, right? And one of the unfortunate things that you'll come to realize is that once you have a certain mindset that will put you on the path to success, there's very few people that you can associate with, right? Very few. Because how many kings are there in a country? What? Just one? So who do you have to associate with? Oh, kings from other countries, kings from other kingdoms that may have different cultures and languages from you. Isn't that crazy? So one of the things that you'll come to realize is that you cannot work with many, many people. You cannot, right? You ever watch Undercover Boss or even the Key and Peele version of Undercover Boss, where the boss comes down, acts like just another Joe, and then they get treated poorly because of their perceived rank. And you realize, oh my goodness, I can't be in this situation anymore. I got to go back with the other kings, right? And that's kind of the same deal that you're going to have to deal with prospects, potential customers. You're going to have to kind of hear their language and feel them out and determine, are you royalty or are you a peasant or a beggar? And I know this seems really, really harsh. People will not like hearing this, but there are very few kings and queens on the planet, and most people are peasants and beggars. And one of the things that peasants and beggars do is they try to infect other people with their scarcity mentality, right? There's only a certain amount of the pie to share. Whereas people who are kings and queens, they think like Henry Ford. They think, hey, if I lose $1 billion, I'll just have it back in less than 5 years, right? Most people do not think like that. Now, here's what I want you to think, okay? Here's what I want you to do, just so that you live in reality. Once you make a lot of money, try associating with people who don't make a lot of money, and it will be the most unjarring thing that you'll ever experience. Doesn't mean you don't avoid them or you avoid them. It means that it'll just be an experience that you have to understand that you can't work with anybody and everybody, right? You want to be in the success path, you got to work with the people who have the same mindset as you. And usually, and this is unfortunate, but this is what I've kind of realized, that people who are struggling and don't have the mindset of a king or a queen, you got to avoid them, right? Because if you don't, they're going to bring you down to their level. They're going to tell you, hey, I'm actually struggling in life. And then 10 minutes later, they're going to ask you stupid questions. Well, tell me why you should work with, what makes you better than your competition? You ever hear that, see that meme where it's like the 50 grand client versus the $500 client? Well, they're the $500 client. If you don't know what I mean, I'll open that up right now. It's this one right here, right? $500 client, I just feel as though with this investment I'm about to make in you, that we should understand of how our lives are about to change and I need results and need to bring them. I'm entrusting you with your livelihood and lives. $50,000 client, money sent, thanks. Which one gives you the feeling of Henry Ford and abundance? Is it the $500 client or the $50,000 client? Now, even if you don't have $50,000, I want you to have the mindset of the $50,000 client. I want you to have the mindset of a king or a queen. I want you to understand that the way that you present yourself will determine how people will treat you and whether you are on the success bus or the struggle bus. It's a spiritual battle that you have to face. The moment you step outside your house, if you think of yourself in scarcity and you're begging, the world will treat you poorly. If, before you step outside your house, you think of yourself as a king or queen, you think of yourself as royalty, and you think the red carpet is kind of has been unveiled for you, right? If you think like that, that's how the world will treat you. And you're not going to live in scarcity anymore. You're going to be the $50,000 client. You're going to send people huge checks like this. And you'll be like, yeah, it's all good. You're not going to say stupid stuff like, tell me why we should work with you, right? You're not going to say things like that. You're going to have a mentality of abundance. And if you happen to lose the $50,000, you're going to be like Henry Ford. I'll just get it back. I'll get it back soon, right? I'll get it back. Not the end of the world. So, in conclusion, as a side note, actually, let me do this. Let me open this up. As you can see right here, I actually got a new HELOC for $280,000. And why do I talk about this? One, it's to kind of flex that I got a $280,000 HELOC. But it's also to kind of talk about the mindset that I like to emulate from banks, right? You ever notice that banks are kind of available to talk to everybody, right? But they actually only approve very small amount of people to work with them, right? So the king will talk to everybody, but the king will only work with the select few. That's the mentality that I want you to have too, right? And I have the same mentality as a client, right? So I am a king, and the bank is blessed to work with me because I don't need their money. And the bank kind of thinks like that too. Like, we don't need their money, but hey, we want to lend to this person because they don't need our money. It's kind of like the circle of life. Kings only work with kings. Royalty only works with royalty. Most people don't understand that, right? And this is why, because most people don't have this mentality, if you associate with the vast majority of people, you're probably going to be struggling and broke. It's very harsh, and I know people don't like to hear this, but it all comes with the shift in mindset that most people don't have. If I lose $1 billion, I'll have it back in less than a day. And what's also really important is that we don't have to convince anybody to work with us, right? I never had to convince the bank to give me this line of credit, and the bank didn't have to convince me to be their customer. These are the type of people that you should want to work with, whether you are a client or a business, right? If you're a client, you never want the business to have the business to convince them to work with you. And if you're a business, you never want to convince the client to work with you. You only want to work with high quality people that understand your value and worth from the very beginning, even if you're not that knowledgeable, right? So a lot of people think, well, what if I don't have any money? Well, do you have the attitude? Well, the attitude is just as valuable. So I'm willing to work with people who don't have money but have the attitude, right? And this is the attitude that I want. You don't have any money? You're going to get back in less than 5 years. But most people don't have that. It's always an excuse. It's always something negative. It's always something that, hey, I cannot do this, or there's some sort of lack. Right? But remember, you're not a beggar. You're not a peasant. You're not in scarcity mode. You're royalty. And kings and queens don't have to convince anybody to work with them. Right? So once you step outside the world, the struggle that you're going to have is once you declare yourself king or queen, that many people are trying to convince you that you're not, when in reality that you are. That's the struggle. But once you have mastered that mentality and truly believe that you're a king or queen, then you're almost, I can't say for sure 100%, 99.999% never going to be on the struggle bus again. All right? Okay. Well, this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. So, yeah, just a mindset training Might go through this again, but remember, I want you to have the mindset if you lose $1 billion, you're going to have it less back in less than 5 years. How many people do you know think like this? Absolutely nobody. Almost nobody, right? Except for you and me. Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk to you all later. This is Korean Atlanta Mentorship.